Hello guys, welcome to another Sky Blue Simulations flight review video. Sky Blue here, aka Drew. We are in the Sky Blue livery in the ToLiSs Airbus A319 on XP11 version 1.8.1. We'll be covering partly cold weather operations, and then the main focus will be de-icing and anti-icing. Again, this is just more of a flight review for me. Maybe like a mini tutorial for all the flight simmers watching this video. And of course, the primary goal here is to give a better flight sim experience for you when it comes to anti-icing and de-icing. Disclaimer, don't attempt to do the procedures done in this video for real life. They are modified for single pilot operation, as well as working within the limitations of the simulator. Always consult your operations manual as well as your authorized flight instructors, your head of training, personnel, or your mentors, most likely, as well as your training or company manuals. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with cold weather operations on the ground leading up to anti-icing, de-icing. Here we go. First of all, let's go ahead and refresh ourselves on icing conditions as defined in the Airbus FCOM. Icing conditions exist when the OAT on ground or after takeoff, or the TAT if in flight, is at or below 10 degrees Celsius and visible moisture in any form is present, such as clouds, fog with visibility of 1 mile or 1.6 kilometers or less, rain, snow, sleet, or ice crystals. They also exist when the OAT on the ground and for takeoff is at or below 10 degrees Celsius and operating on ramps, taxiways, runways, where surface snow, standing water, or slush may be ingested by the engines or freeze on engines, nacelles, or engine sensor probes. For this video, rather, we have chosen Cleveland as our airport of choice. We have set a simulated temperature of, it should be 6 degrees Celsius, so that's below 10 degrees. But I did choose Cleveland because of the procedure for de-icing here. It's an interesting chart that you have to read. We'll discuss that in just a bit. Let's open up our X checklist. I did put this into an X checklist. This is a very summarized list of what to expect in cold weather operations. The logo is blocking it. I'm gonna put it down now. So let's go ahead and get started. So pretty much we'll be doing a standard SOP as we've all done for the Airbus A320 family. So first of all, safety exterior inspection. We look outside the aircraft. We're coming into the aircraft from the jetway or from the window. You do need to make sure that the protective covers are removed. The APU intake. The APU intake is it's this little thing right here. Free of snow and ice. Packs inlet and outlet doors. So there's pack inlet doors here. Pack outlet doors are, if we can see it, it's these kind of a grill. No, this is the inlet ones, the triangle ones. The outlet should be somewhere around here, the doors, which probably not modeled on the ToLiSs, or I just don't know how to access it right now. Outflow valves. So this thing over here, the outflow valve is open. It's important that we don't want this to have any snow or ice. So with these above items, consider a de-ice if necessary. So more on that later on. All right, so let's go inside the cockpit and we'll do our preliminary cockpit prep. So nothing really changes much. Parking brake on, engines off, weather panel, put this to off. Gear down, wipers off, batteries 1 and 2 on, external power on, IR1 nav, IR2 nav, IR3 nav. 319 112 CFM 56 5B6 cycle 2213 init request. I did set up a mock flight. We won't do the flight, of course. It's from Chicago, rather from Cleveland to Chicago, as Sky Blue 1841. Oh, there you go. Also, ground power should be used to start the APU if the OAT is minus 15 Celsius or below. With the same temperatures, with cockpit temperatures below minus 15, the display units may not be available. So again, APU started, the air conditioning is on. So we do need to turn on the APU. And if there's ground power, then let's use it to start the APU. So we do have ground power, APU master on. And then APU start. So it does say run APU and establish air conditioning as well. So we'll fast forward just a bit. All right, it should be done in just a few. So let's just wait for that. Okay, APU start, APU bleed on. And now you should initiate the alignment of the IRS as well. This is also part of the procedure. It's not here. Now, windshield and upper cockpit fuselage, you must remove the ice and the snow. So I think the best way to do it is just open up the window and just scrape it all off. Or you could probably use water. It depends on your company. How you want to remove the ice and snow from the windshield and the upper cockpit fuselage. So one thing to note, as you clean the cockpit windshield and the upper fuselage here, the upper cockpit fuselage, there's a caution here. With ice or snow accumulated on the windshield and or the upper cockpit fuselage, and if the probe window heat is on, melted ice or snow running down from these areas could refreeze on the fuselage area below, if the temperature is very low especially. This could create ice buildup on the forward fuselage that could disturb the airflow around the static, pitot, angle of attack probes. So we'll lightly touch on these in just a bit on the probes that you see here. Probe covers, check, remove so that they're to prevent the covers from melting. Probe and window heat on. All right. So you prepare the aircraft up until external walkaround. We'll do that in just a bit. We're going to fast forward here in a bit. So now we're here at the external walkaround portion of cold weather operations. All right, so surfaces. Most importantly, you do want to see the critical surfaces. So the leading edge, you have the upper wing surface, the vertical and horizontal stabilizers, all control surfaces, so elevators, ailerons, and rudder, the slats, and the flaps as well. Note thin hoarfrost is acceptable on the upper surface of the fuselage. On the underside of the wing tank areas, a maximum layer of 3 millimeters or 0.125 inches of frost is acceptable. For the landing gear, check free of frost, ice, and snow. Check the gear assemblies, lever locks, and tires and doors. Engines, of course. Check free of frost, ice, and snow. Check inlets, inlet lips. Let's go here. Let's go through the engine. Very realistic. Fans, spinners, fan exhaust ducts, and the reversers assemblies. Engine fans. Check for free rotation. Drains, bleeds, and probes. So probes, we have pitot tubes, static ports, TAT sensors, and AOA sensors. So here are the sensors that you need to look for. This is the captain's angle of attack sensor, standby angle of attack sensor, captain and FO static port, standby static port. We have the captain pitot probe. We have the standby pitot probe, and we have the captain's TAT probe. Also check the latch on the radome as well. We go over to the other side. We can easily see the first officer's TAT probe. We can also see the other latch on the radome. Static port backup 1, 2, and from here and here you can easily see the pitot tube for the FO as well, and the standby pitot probe as well. Pitot tube, pitot probe. And then you have here the first officer angle of attack probe. You also need to check the lower nose fuselage as stated in the caution, in which ice may form from the upper fuselage going down to the lower nose, affecting the probes as well. The water supplies, check that it's not frozen, of course. So that's what you need to know about cold weather operations on the exterior walk-around. We'll go back and complete the cockpit preparation checklist, and just before we get into the briefing. So I'll see you in just a few minutes. Alright, so we're getting ready for pushback here. We just need to discuss the procedure going to the de-icing pads. Of course, this varies by airports, so we'll take a look at how you do it in Cleveland. So stand by, let me just get the chart up. And we're looking for the Cleveland chart. So it's usually here in taxi charts, 10-9. Let's pin that. And the parking gate as well, just so that we know where we are. Here we go. So, of course, Cleveland has a pushback procedure. Depends on where you're pushing back from. So first of all, before that, let's take a look at the pushback procedures. We are parked here at what looks to be gate alpha. Is it alpha 9 or alpha 11? It's alpha 9. And the pushback procedures say that alpha 9 contact Cleveland ground for pushback clearance. We do need this. Right, but I will be pushing back into the alleyway anyway, so it really doesn't matter, and we're doing it offline. What we're really interested in is the de-icing procedures here in Cleveland. So let's go ahead and read this together. So this is chart 10-9 Charlie, 30 October 2020, effective 5 November for Hopkins International Airport, Ohio. Same charts, same charts. So you will have to do this maybe during or before the briefing, or a shortened version of this during the briefing. So in Cleveland, AeroMag operates the CDF, Centralized De-Icing Facility at Cleveland, comprised of 2 pads, identified as Pad 1 and Pad 2. De-ice Pad 1 is the primary pad, handling the majority of the traffic. Aircraft are expected to de-ice in a manner consistent to meet ATC assigned departure release times due to GDP or AFP, Airspace Flow Program. So this means that, you know, whoever's scheduling the flights, they do have to set a later departure time. Well, this is how I see it, a later departure time, just to account for the icing. I'm not sure how long it takes. Maybe for this it's just 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not too sure. But let's say there's a ground delay program or airspace flow program in effect. Let's say your takeoff time is going to be about 50 minutes from now, and then you're supposed to push back in, say, what, 30 minutes? But you might have to push back a bit earlier, maybe in 20 minutes, because you do have an appointment, or rather you have to de-ice your aircraft. So it's all on you, and you know, coordinating with your company and with the de-icing facility as well. So anyway, de-ice pad frequencies, you can contact AeroMag at 128.975 for aircraft movement. They'll assign you the de-ice pad and the spot. And then you got the Iceman, yes, exactly, like the Iceman in in Top Gun. 130.975, de-icing application coordination. So you do have de-ice pad restrictions, pad 1 and 2. Pad 2 is reserved for small aircraft. Pad 1, basically, that's going to be us. There are 9 pads in Cleveland. Oh god, what happened? It was an ad. I'm so sorry, guys. It was an ad. Okay, that scared the crap out of me. So 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 9 are restricted to Group 3 aircraft. That's going to be us. Airbus aircraft, less than 118. If it's not mentioned here, it's for big aircraft. So here's the procedure. All aircraft requiring de-icing with CDF shall coordinate with AeroMag prior to making initial contact with ATC for taxi. So before you do, you know, maybe the pushback, you do have to coordinate. Aircraft shall notify AeroMag at least 30 minutes prior or as soon as possible when de-icing is needed. So let's Let's just say, you know, before the people boarded, when we got on the aircraft, we called Aeromag that, hey, we'll need some de-icing, and from there, they are going to advise. Sorry. Later, we do have to note this down. We need to advise ATC that we need to taxi to pad 1 first, as assigned by Aeromag. So Aeromag is going to give us the pad and the spot once we get to the pad. And under guidance from ATC ground control, aircraft will taxi to the assigned pad. Hold short of the handoff point. Contact Aeromag on a frequency 128.9 or 75. Pad 1 handoff points are the east and west end of Juliet 2. Attack rates Mike 1 and 2 short of Juliet 2. Pad 2 handoff point off of Kilo 1. Aircraft will follow instructions from Aeromag and taxiing to the assigned de-icing bay. Contact the Iceman on frequency 130.9 or 75 when so instructed with brakes set. Aircraft configured and engines at idle. After de-icing is complete, aircraft will contact Aeromag on frequency 128.9 or 75 prior to moving aircraft. Aeromag will guide aircraft out of the de-icing bay and instruct the aircraft to hold short of the active taxiway and contact ATC ground control. Pad 1 handoff points for transfer to ATC ground control on taxiway Mike 1 and Mike 2 short of Lima. So this is a lot to process, right? Thankfully, chart 10-9 Delta is the graphical version of this one. But first of all, let's see where we are in the airport. We're here at Alpha 9 to get to pad 1. Short of Juliet 2, we just need to follow Juliet and then turn right on Juliet 2 short of pad 1. And then we can contact Aeromag, pretty much. So graphics. Oh, not that one. So for de-icing pad number 1, we're going to be coming from here, Juliet, short of Juliet 2 short of Mike 1. And, you know, for simplicity's sake, let's just say Aeromag assigned us bay number 9. It's the closest one once we get there. So we have bay number 9. So we taxi, we configure the aircraft, and then we request de-icing. We tell them certain information. So we tell them that we want, you know, de-icing, and then what fluid, pretty much, and where. And well, we'll get into that in just a bit. But anyway, this is what it looks like, the taxi route. So once we go out, we go to Mike 1 short of Lima, and then we contact ground again to taxi to the active runway. Alright, so that's pretty much for the info. I will see you after we start the first engine. Ciao. Alright guys, so now our first engine, it can be the left, it can be the right. If you're going to do a one engine taxi, yeah, you do start the left. We're going to start both engines, so we're going to start the right first. So after start procedure, after the first engine is just put the probe heat on auto. Probe heat is automatically, you know, on, which is high when the first engine has started. Of course, you put this before to help with removing the ice and pretty much removing the ice from the probe and window. Okay, engine 2 is avail. Now we can turn this off. Probe window heat off. Or rather, auto. We'll start the second engine, no amber crosses. Bleeder left side, engine 1 master switch on. Right, we'll come back once we've started the second engine. Alright, we have started the second engine, which is engine 1. So we do this. Engine 1 selector norm. For the pilot flying, engine 1 selector norm. APU bleed as required. We'll take it off. Engine anti-ice on, well, as required pretty much. And the APU master switch off. Pilot monitoring, armor spoilers, reset rudder trim. Do not set the flaps. The flaps will be set on lineup. So on, you know, after the anti-icing, de-icing, it's part of the lineup flow now, or just before you get to the holding point. Alright, and then you set the trim, which is about up 0.4. Clear to disconnect, hand signals on the left side. So we'll wait for the pushback tug to disconnect, and we'll get back and request for taxi to the de-icing pad. Alright, so we've done our pushback, it is complete, the hand signals and pins are received, we've done our after start checklist. We now need to request taxi to Cleveland ground to pad 1. So this is how it may go. Cleveland Ground, Sky Blue 1841, request taxi, pad 1. And then he's going to give us the instructions. It's going to be Roger, pad 1 via Juliet, Juliet 2, Sky Blue 1841. Alright, clear left side, clear right side, turn off and taxi lights on, parking brake off. So you can do the brakes check here. Again, it is important that you do not move the flight controls. That includes the slats and the flaps as well. You have to delay those. The flaps will be done after your de-icing. Can be done immediately after de-icing. Sorry, yeah, no, the flight controls can be done after the de-icing. The flaps just before the holding point. Brakes check. Pressure 0. Alright, I'll see you guys in the de-icing pad. Alright, hello y'all. Welcome back. We are now approaching the Aeromag ramp, and we do need to contact them. So I guess the comms go something like this. Aeromag, hello, Skyblue 1841, Juliet 2 entry for de-icing. So Skyblue 1841, proceed and park on bay number 9. Bay number 9. And contact Iceman on 130.975. Bay number 9 and over to Iceman 130.975. Thanks. So we'll switch over to Iceman, which is probably one of the trucks here. So again, guys, at the time of this writing, at the time of this video rather, there is no animation yet for de-icing, or I haven't unlocked it yet. This is ToLiSs A319 version 1.8.1. 1.8.1. So we're going to stop here. That's going to be 9 for us. Doesn't say exactly where, but you know, we can do this. There you go. Alright, let's just stop here. Alright, parking brake on. So let's just read some things before we do airframe de-icing, anti-icing. So by the way, guys, I did forget to mention that de-icing can also be done at the gate. After the jetway has been disconnected, and once the pushback tug moves you just about a couple of yards, just a few inches probably, or just a few feet. So the icing procedure is primarily split into two. It's going to be before and after spraying. So let me read aloud. Before fluid spraying, in all situations, the captain decides if the ground crew must de-ice or anti-ice the aircraft, or if additional icing or de-icing, anti-icing treatments are required. Make sure, so caution, make sure that the low or high pressure ground connectors do not supply any external air to the aircraft. We're going to be closing the aircraft up. We do not need to introduce new air into the aircraft while it's closed up. So what do I mean? The outflow valves, the pack valves, and the avionics inlet outlet valves. And if it's necessary for the ground to repeatedly anti-ice the aircraft, de-ice the surfaces with a hot fluid mixture before applying a new layer of anti-icing fluid. So this is now a good time to discuss the fluid from the FCTM. We have type 1, which is color orange, carrot juice, or orange juice, I don't know if you want to call it. It's a heated, I think it's a glyco and water mixture, mainly used for de-icing. Mainly used for de-icing. What it's not being used for primarily is anti-icing. So de-icing is getting the ice off the aircraft. Anti-icing is preventing new ice from forming. That would be your type 2, 3, and 4. The second most popular is type 4, which is, I believe it's the color green. It's green juice. So what differentiates all these types is the holdover time, which we are interested in. We'll put the nose lights and turn off lights off. The holdover time. The holdover time is it's how long the anti-ice is effective in preventing new ice from forming. The Iceman is going to read something back to us after the de-icing. So depending on the severity of the weather, de-icing, anti-icing can be applied either in one step, via the single application of heated and diluted de-icing anti-icing fluid. This procedure provides a short holdover time and should be used in low moisture conditions only. Holdover time starts from the beginning of the application of the fluid. So the beginning of the application, so once it starts, then yeah. Oh no, the beginning of the application in 2 steps. So it can be done also in 2 steps. First by applying the heated de-icing fluid, and then by applying a protective anti-icing fluid. These 2 sprays must be applied consecutively. The holdover time starts from the beginning of the application of the second fluid. So what it means is after the fluid has been applied. But if you're going to do 1 stage, it's after the first stage. If you're going to do 2 stages, it's 2 stages or the second fluid. So with that, let's go and proceed along with the FCOM procedure. Communication with ground crew. Saying there are some procedures where you have to configure the aircraft first and then contact Iceman. And then there are procedures where you establish communication first with Iceman, and then you hold the de-icing, the spraying, and then once you've configured it, then we're cleared. For the purpose of following the FCOM, we'll just do we'll disregard the Cleveland local procedures. Of course, this is different in other airports with regards to contacting the Iceman. So, by the way, if I didn't mention it already, getting the not all airports will have frequencies, or it'll be given later on published frequencies. You won't see it in most Jeppesen charts. Or there will be airports that it's not published in the charts, but maybe it's on the website. So I was looking at St. Louis. They don't have an air mag or anything, or a de-icing facility frequency, not that we publicly know of. What I saw is that you can either you or the operator, most likely the operator or the dispatcher, can make a phone call to reserve your de-icing slot, pretty much. Anyway, I segued just a bit, so let's go ahead. So, yeah, ground crew, fluid type, we discussed that. Engines. So you do not start the engines during fluid spraying. The engines in APU can either be stopped or running during de-icing or anti-icing, but it cannot be starting. Okay? Caution, the ground crew should take care when spraying de-icing fluid. Make sure the engines in APU don't ingest any fluid. Don't move flaps, slats, ailerons, spoilers, or elevators if they are not free of ice. Always ensure that both left and right side of the aircraft receive the same completely symmetrical de-icing and anti-icing treatment. So let's say you just have ice on the left leading edge, but none on the right. You still have to symmetrically apply the spray on both the left and the right side. End of caution. So note, in case of frost formation on one and several areas of the wing, the captain requests a local de-icing applications only on the affected areas. Again, still symmetrical. The captain shall take care that both wings receive the same symmetrical treatment, even if frost formation does not affect both wings symmetrically. Alright, next. Cabin pressure mode selector auto. It's lights out. This is manual, so it should be lights out for auto. Okay, so this is going to be important now. So engine bleeds off, 1 and 2. If you do see the ECAM caution, air bleed 1 and 2 off, just disregard that. APU bleeds. If you were on APU, turn it off now. And then here's the important part: the ditching push button. Yes, ditching used for water landings, also, but this is also normally used for icing. So what happens here, most importantly, if we go to pressure, the outflow valve. So once we turn this on, look what happens here. It closes. So if you want to see it close, it's just right here. See that? Outflow valve is closing. So outflow valve, pack valves, and avionic inlet and extract valves close. This prevents de-icing anti-icing fluid from entering the aircraft. Avionic ventilation is a closed circuit with both fans running. In view of the low OAT, there is no time limit for this configuration. But for passenger comfort reason, you don't operate on ground with both packs off for more than 20 minutes. So for comfort. Thrust levers, check idle. And now that we're ready for spraying, now you can contact Iceman. Iceman, Skyblue 181 aircraft prepared for spraying. Roger. So now they're going to spray our aircraft. So let's just pretend that they have sprayed the aircraft already. In ToLiSs, you do this by going to mech and then apply de-ice liquid. So de-ice liquid, that's number one. Oh, wait, so basically, our request, de-ice, 2 stages. First stage de-ice, all surfaces, and then stage 2 will be type 4, wings, elevators, and rudder. So you probably request for something like that.
5 minutes later.
Right, so upon completion of the spraying operation, after spraying, the ground crew, confirm with the ground crew that the pitos and statics are clear of ice. So caution when the OAT is low, below 5 degrees Celsius, negative 5 degrees Celsius during snow, freezing, rain precipitations. Melted snow or raindrops may drip from the cockpit windshields and freeze on the fuselage below. So it could come up from upper to lower. This could create ice buildup on the forward fuselage that could possibly disturb the airflow around the static, pitot, and angle of attack probes and result in unreliable air data measurements during takeoff. Therefore, during taxi out before takeoff, beware of this possible buildup of ice. The area around the static pitot angle of attack probes must be free of ice and snow before starting takeoff. Ground equipment removed. So by the way, Iceman can be a frequency, but I believe it may. I'm not too sure. May also be with a ground receptacle on mech. But what I've seen, it's mostly on frequency. There's a separate frequency, a signboard that'll tell you to contact the Iceman. All right, de-icing and anti-icing report is received. So for de-icing report, it just says that the de-icing has been completed. Aircraft critical parts are clean. For the anti-icing, there is a specific format and anti-icing code. So the anti-icing code is the type of fluid used, the ratio of fluid to water, the time of the holdover beginning, the result of the post-application check. So I think the pilot does need to read it back to the Iceman. Iceman's going to say, de-icing completed and anti-icing report completed. Type 4, 75% ratio. And holdover time began 1503, and aircraft critical parts are clean. So then we say our goodbyes. We read it back to type 4, ratio 75%, 1503, aircraft critical parts are clean. Thank you. All right, so now the Iceman goes away. So once you do complete the spraying operation, start the timer. We want this to go to 1 minute for 2 reasons. So first of all, an unrelated reason, the ditching. Of course, now you can turn the ditching from off to on. But the reason why we want the timer is because we want at least 1 minute after completion of spraying operation. Let's wait 1 minute. Engine bleed 1 and 2 can go on. And then at least 5 minutes after completion of spraying operation, the APU bleed as required. So let's say you were going to do an APU bleed on takeoff, or you were going to start the second engine on a single engine taxi. So you do need to wait 5 minutes after completion of spraying to turn on the APU bleed, and again 1 minute for engine 1 and 2 bleed to turn on, which we can do now. All right, 1, 2. APU bleed. There is a risk of de-icing ingestion by the APU air intake, resulting in specific odors or smoke warnings. Therefore, keep the APU running with the APU bleed off for 5 minutes after spraying completion before setting the APU bleed on, if required. Or consider APU bleed off for takeoff. Normal procedure, resume. So we'll taxi out, and we'll do the flight controls check, and we'll do the flaps just before we get to the runway, which is 2-4 left. So we're done. We can contact Aramag. Aramag, Skyblue 1841 at Bay 9, de-icing complete. Roger. Taxi forward short of Lima and contact ground. See ya. Alright, so right side. I can break off. And we can do a flight control check now. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral, rudder, full left, full right, neutral. All right, guys. So I'll see you at the holding point, and that's going to be the end of the video after that. So I'll see you in a bit. See ya. So before we do that, we contact ground. Ground, Skyblue 18441 from pad 1, short of Lima. Request taxi 24 left. Skyblue 1841, taxi holding point, runway 24 left via Lima, Lima 7, hold short 24 left. Lima, Lima 7, hold short 24 left. Skyblue 1841, thanks. Alright guys, I'll see you at the holding point then. Alright guys, we are near the holding point from runway 24 left. We'll drop the flaps now, so we're going flaps 1. And of course, we do need to do the takeoff config test. After that, we do the taxi checklist, and we'll request for the lineup clearance. Okay, taxi checklist, line control check, left setting config 1 plus F, config 1 plus F, and protective feature on auto, engine mode selector. Just make it ignition. We do have some visible moisture. EKM mode takeoff and blue taxi checklist complete. The tower, Skyblue 1841, runway 24 left, ready for departure. So 1841, wind, let's say 270 runway 24 left, clear for takeoff. 24 left, clear for takeoff, Skyblue 1841. 24 left, firm, 24 left, approach clear, runway clear, strobe lights on, landing lights. Cabin crew seats for takeoff. UTRA, and the brake fan is off, not being used. Lineup checklist, takeoff runway 24 left full end, 24 left full end, TCAS TRA, packs 1 and 2 on, lineup checklist complete. Alright. So guys, that's pretty much the cold weather operations and anti-icing, de-icing procedures. If you got any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them and provide more info. Yeah guys, my name is Skyblue, aka Drew. Hope you enjoy this takeoff. See ya!